Yeah, welcome back to another episode of Format Podcast Live. Yeah, that's right. So obviously, as you know, if you follow this channel, we normally do our live shows on Saturday nights at 7 p.m. But I've been away I was away last week, didn't get to do a show Saturday night, and a lot of stuff has gone on since I've been gone. No way I can cover it all, but I figured I'd get on here and do a show tonight, kind of get back in the flow and talk about some things I've been talking about, or I've been thinking about. Excuse me. So I definitely want to get to that. As you can see from the thumbnail, we got some interesting topics lined up for you. Some of this stuff you might have already heard commentary on over the last week or so, but definitely wanted to give my thoughts on these things and discuss it. If you see me looking to the right, it's because on my second monitor I got the Celtics and Cavs game going to be on, so definitely want to see what's going on there. But before we get to our show, you already know what time it is. If you're here on YouTube and you haven't already, please make sure you go ahead, click that like, that subscribe, that notification bell. Make sure you're kept up to date whenever we drop new content on the channel. If you want the audio only version of the podcast, open up your audio podcast platform, hit the search bar, type in The Format Podcast, and we should come right up. If you're enjoying the content, make sure you give us that like, that 5-star review, and drop a comment. All that stuff helps us rise in the algorithm, helps us find more sports fans, helps more sports fans find us. And finally, make sure you write it down, put it in your phone, set an alarm, do whatever you got to do to remember. Saturday nights at 7 p.m. we are live here on the Format Podcast, and we'll give you the opportunity to call in, talk to us, get at me. I love it. I can't wait. All right. So also keep this in mind if you're watching this at a later time, if you're watching live now, please go ahead and make sure you subscribe to the channel. Like I said in the little blurb there a minute ago, share the channel with other people. We're trying to get to 2,000 subscribers before the end of the month. We definitely made a lot of progress. It's out on YouTube how your second 1,000 subscribers comes a lot faster than your first. But anyway, yeah, please make sure you do that. Please make sure you're liking the channel. When you come into the chat, make sure you let us know where you're coming in from. All right. So let's get to it. Okay, so let's go to the final topic, and this is something that I like to talk about, and this one won't nearly be as long, but want to give it some love because it deserves a shout out, and that's boxing, a sport that was really popular in the States in the past, and but not so much anymore. And I think a big part of that is, and I talked about this before, the fights not being made when we want to see them, the big fights, but we know that boxing can be popular, can be great because why? When you give us the fights sell, right? So anyway, just want to take a quick few minutes to talk about three boxing topics. Won't be too long. So the first, obviously, last show I did, I talked about Canelo and Jaime Munguia, and Canelo stopped Jaime Munguia's undefeated streak, and in relatively convincing manner. He beat him without too much issue. He didn't knock him out. He wasn't able to do that. He survived Munguia coming pretty ferociously to open the fight, first few rounds, and then he kind of settled down, did what we like to call downloading that the great fighters do. Kind of was able to start timing Munguia, and Munguia is a really good fighter, pressure fighter, Mexican style guy, always going to come forward, always going to give you everything he's got, but Canelo demonstrated that he's clearly on another level in terms of skill and understanding of the sweet science, and he beat him with relative ease. Was landing big punches consistently throughout the fight, as you can see here. One thing that surprised me with both of these guys, and in general, obviously it's easier said than done. I'm not a fighter. I always wondered, for guys who fight Canelo, why don't they try to go more to the body, fight him in the pocket and break his body down? And breaking the body down is often a staple of Mexican fighters. And I'm just trying to think. Well, it's been a while since Canelo's fought another Mexican fighter, but the point is, why don't they do more of a job trying to break his body down, stop his movement, and then go from there? And I know it seems like it's probably generic, and I know it seems like, well, if anybody could do that and if it's that simple, they would. But you don't seem to see a lot of fighters really trying to take that tact with Canelo in terms of really going to the body. And I'm curious to know about that, because also, if you fight in the pocket, the counter left is going to be much more difficult for Canelo to land. Generally, you need a little bit of room for that, but I guess not easy to get in there without getting popped. But I don't know. That's my thought. But anyway, Canelo demonstrated that he is still one of the best fighters in the game. He's still the face of the sport. He's that guy. And also, one thing I can say about Canelo, again, not a fan of his because of some of the moves that he's making outside of the ring, but one thing I can say about this dude is that he can take a punch. He's very tough. He never got knocked down versus Triple G, versus Jaime Munguia, versus Sergey Kovalev, and we know he fought an old Kovalev. But the fact is, on a power puncher, power is the last thing to go, and Kovalev still couldn't put him down. So very, very tough chin. A lot of respect for that. But when it comes to Canelo, here comes the part I don't like. We're back to it again. After the fight, he had some interesting comments. I think it was in the post-fight presser, and one of the things he said was basically, he said, "I can do what I want," meaning now I'm at a point where I can fight who I want, when I want, where I want. I can do what I want because he's the face of the boxing. He's clearly the A side. He's that guy, and I get it. When you can do what you want and you've earned that, you can call the shots. But my problem is, if calling the shots means that you are not giving us what we want and running from guys, well, then I have a problem with that. And what do I mean by not giving us what we want and running from guys? I talked about this last show. It's the same thing again. David Benavidez. And you got to ask, did he really duck David Benavidez? A lot of people don't want to come out and say it, but it sure seems like it to me when you had the opportunity to fight him and you left your promoter to avoid that. Sure seems like it to me when David Benavidez says, "Hey, I was willing to take an 8% to 92% split to fight him," and you avoid that. Right? Sure seems like it to me when first you're Canelo and you say, "I want $150 million for this fight," and then you say, "No, I want $200 million for this fight." That you're putting the price tag out there at a point where it's untenable, and so nobody's going to put up that kind of money for the fight. Maybe the Saudis will, who knows, but nobody's going to put up that type of money for the fight, and so it's not going to happen. But then you get to say, "Hey, I tried to make the fight, but it just couldn't happen." No, 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 no. You know what you're doing. And again, Floyd Mayweather Jr. method. Congrats, right? Floyd Mayweather Jr. method. So David Benavidez and Canelo Alvarez, that's the fight I want to see so bad. The Mexican monster versus the other Mexican in Canelo Alvarez, right? They call David Benavidez the Mexican monster. But that would be an amazing, amazing fight. I wish it could have happened because, like I said, I don't want to see a situation where David Benavidez goes up to, was that 175 and takes the light heavy and fights and maybe possibly wins the light heavyweight championship, but then Canelo says, "Hey, no, come back down to 168 to fight me." So, I mean, we know guys do all this kind of stuff to avoid the perfect situation where it's perfectly fair to both parties, in terms of age, prime, weight, all those things. We don't want any situation like that. We don't want hydration clauses. We don't want up and down fluctuating weights. We don't want guys getting old. None of that. Just fight the fight when you're supposed to fight it. That's my thing. Okay, next um possibility of Terrence Bud Crawford, one of the best pound for pound guys in the game. I would love to see that against Canelo, but is Canelo going to come down to 160? Of course not. He's not going to fight anything more less than 168. I would be shocked if he came down to 160 and took this fight. Now, we know Crawford can make 160. He's a naturally big guy at junior middleweight. Then he often fights 154. So 160 shouldn't be an issue for him, but I don't like the idea of him trying to get up to 168 and carry that around. We saw what happened to Triple G, and Canelo really took advantage of that. You could see Triple G did not look at his best at 168. Of course, he was a lot older than Bud Crawford, but the point is, I don't like that at all. I think that would be a terrible move. So at 160, maybe it happens. I would love to see that. And I think Terrence Crawford would beat him. Terrence Crawford was so skilled. He got power. He's mean. I don't know if he could knock him out. From what I said, like I said earlier, and what we've seen, um, I don't think Canelo can be knocked out. He's got a tremendous, tremendous chin. He could take a lot of punishment. But I would love to see that fight. That might be one I'd pay for. But yeah, Terrence Crawford, Canelo, that would be awesome. And I'm curious to know, like I said, what would be the weight class for that fight? Would it be a catch weight? Would it be 160? I don't know. Maybe 163. That would be the most I would advise Terrence Crawford to go up to, but don't try 168. Canelo's super, super comfortable fighting there, and he's been fighting there for years. Don't do it. But yeah. Okay, so the other big fight, and this looks like the one that may be most likely to happen, and that's Edgar Berlanga, the Puerto Rican. So you can do the Puerto Rican Mexican thing to really sell that fight. That would be pretty awesome. Berlanga has been knocking a lot of people out. I think he started maybe like his career with like his first 15 fights or something like that, won by knockout. Can't remember the exact number. Should have looked that up before I started. But Edgar Berlanga is a vicious power puncher. But I don't think he can beat Canelo in terms of boxing skill. He's just not there yet. Super, super talented. Again, he got lead in his hands. He can put people down, but Stepping up to fight a guy like Canelo is just a totally different angle. Now, maybe you could talk about the youth maybe playing in the advantage, but I think Canelo's just too smart as a boxer in and outside of that ring to get beat by Edgar Berlanga. It would be nice to see though, and hopefully that can happen in September. What is that? Mexican Independence Day weekend. Hopefully that can happen. That's Canelo likes to fight there. He likes to fight Cinco de Mayo and Mexican Independence Day. So we'll see. Berlanga has elite power, and again, would love to see it. All right. He doesn't have better BF power. Now that's woo, that's the real boogeyman, and that's the one I would love to see is Arthur Beterbiev versus Canelo. So let's say he beats Dmitry Bivol in that fight coming up, and then you get Canelo versus Beterbiev for the light heavy. But I don't think Canelo takes that fight either. He don't want that. These guys are really really risk averse nowadays, but that would be freaking awesome. All right, so the next one we got is uh while back, what, about a month ago now, can't remember when the fight exactly was, we saw King Ryan Garcia beat Devin Haney convincingly to win that fight. He didn't make weight, so he didn't win the championship, but then it comes out that he tested positive for Narandrastrone metabolite, excuse me, a performance enhancing drug. He also tested positive for Ostarine. Ostarine is a type of drug called a selective androgen receptor modulator. And basically, it attaches to proteins in the body to tell muscles to grow. So basically, the accusation is that he was juiced up for his fight against Devin Haney. And Devin Haney was undefeated at the time. I think he was 30-0, 15 knockouts. And he was knocked down 3 times in the fight by King Ryan. But then we find out after the fight that the test came out positive. So King Ryan, he denied it. And he asked that his B sample be tested. And in one of them, can't remember which one it was, the B sample came out negative. So he was cleared of that one. So I guess we're waiting on the second one. But still, the fact that at any point your sample comes up positive, I don't know, it lends doubt on the outcome of the fight. And Devin Haney obviously is not happy about that. So he's petitioning the sanctioning bodies for disqualification and blah, blah, blah. So that was tough, man. I was really disappointed by that. That fight was marred by a lot of things. One, Ryan Garcia's wild behavior prior to the fight. I guess he was just trying to sell the fight. And then the fight was marred by Ryan Garcia not making weight. So people had questions about that. And now, of course, he comes up, he pees hot. And so the fight is marred by that as well. So all the goodwill that Ryan Garcia garnered from winning that fight and winning it in a dominant fashion that he did is kind of lost on all these other factors. And it's tough, man. It is tough. So let's see what happens to the other when the other B sample is tested. And if he comes up clean on all of it, then we'll find out. But again, it's kind of like now you've been accused, and even though you beat the case, people are always going to look at you different. So is there going to be a rematch? If there is it going to be at the same weight? Is it going to be looked at the same? Blah, blah, blah. Who knows, man? Who knows? So that's tough. So Ryan Garcia clearly is now not looked at the same. Yeah, he's so talented a fighter, but all this other stuff really takes away from what he could be. All right. The last boxing topic I want to briefly touch on is Tyson Fury, Alexander Usyk, and that is a fight for the heavyweight championship of the world, which should be good. Looking forward to it. And Usyk is an extremely skilled fighter, and definitely looking forward to that one. That's in like 2 weeks now, I believe. Saturday, May 18th. No, that's this week. Okay, sorry. So that's this Saturday night, May 18th, is Usyk and Tyson Fury. And we all know that boxing is better when the heavyweight division is great. Now, I think a lot of people say when there's an American heavyweight, that makes it even better. But me personally, I'm not super concerned about that, because when you got a guy like Tyson Fury, him being British, and now there's not much of a language barrier, and he's super charismatic, that kind of makes up for it. Obviously, American fight fans want to see a great American heavyweight champion, but it's still easier to identify with Tyson Fury if he's the winner than if it's Usyk, excuse me. And if Tyson Fury either one should win, they're going to be the first undefeated champion since Usyk. So that's going to be good. You love to see the undisputed champions, right? The guys who have all the belts, and not one guy here, one guy there, one guy here, one guy there, right? You got one guy with the belts, and it's like, okay, You fight me, you win, you take all the belts. So that's pretty cool. You love to see that. Um, so Usyk is 21-0 with 14 knockouts. His two biggest wins, obviously, he beat Anthony Joshua twice, outboxed him. So the thing is, even though Tyson Fury is a huge guy, he's 6'9", I think he weighs about 280 or so. He's a guy who really is a super slick boxer, has tremendous head and upper body movement, great jab, good hand speed, and he's shown that he can get up from power punches, as we saw when he fought Deontay Wilder 3 times. Also, we saw against Ngannou, and Ngannou knocked him down. So I think Tyson Fury is probably, after that Ngannou fight, which clearly he didn't take seriously, right? We saw Ngannou knock him down and really fight well against him, and then get laid down by Anthony Joshua. But I think that was the wake up call for Tyson Fury. I'm sure he's probably training extremely hard for this fight. He's taking this seriously, and realistically, I would love to see Tyson Fury win, not because I necessarily care about him versus Usyk, but I want to see him win because I want to see that all Britain tilt between him and Anthony Joshua, which hopefully would be the next fight up for undisputed championship of the world. I think that would be fantastic. Anthony Joshua versus Tyson Fury for all the marbles, providing Tyson Fury can get past Usyk. And then looking down the road just a little further, we've been waiting for years for Anthony Joshua versus Deontay Wilder, and I think Anthony Joshua would box circles around Deontay Wilder, and he probably could catch him with a mean counter if Deontay Wilder just comes in swinging like we know he does, because Anthony Joshua is a much more skilled boxer, and he has very similar power to Deontay Wilder. So some good stuff coming up inside the boxing ring. Definitely looking forward to that. But yeah, that's all I got on that. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna call it a night on this show tonight. Thanks so much for joining me. If you were here, I really appreciate it. Make sure you like and subscribe. Make sure you send the channel to people you know who want to hear good sports talk. So yeah, that's all I got. Should have an episode out Thursday for Throwback Thursdays. Not sure which old school player I'm going to do, whether or not it's going to be football or basketball. Probably basketball, but not sure who that's going to be. But I'll have that show out tomorrow, and then we will have another live show Saturday night. So looking forward to that. But yeah, thanks so much for joining me. I'll be back with the next episode, and I'm out. Peace.